right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. The discussion starts right now. We'd like to hear your views on the Supreme ruling. At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, use the hashtag Daybreak. Honorable Gladys Boss, Woman Rep Wasingishu, is joining us online in just a short while. Honorable Peter Opondo Kaluma is with us here as a Member of Parliament for Homa Bay Town. And Professor Tom Ojienda is also here with us in studio, Senior Counsel and Senator Kisumu aspirant. Thank you so much for making time. We're still waiting for Oliver Kipchumba, Advocate of the High Court. If as soon as he joins us, we'll rope him into the discussion. Prof, let me start with you on this issue. What is your interpretation of the Supreme Court ruling in regards to the BBI?
Thank you, Trevor, and good morning, viewers. I would describe the judgment of the Supreme Court as a sober judgment that opens doors for a structured amendment to the Constitution. I think one thing that Kenyans perhaps do not appreciate, that the finding of the High Court and the Court of Appeal, one of course on 13th May 2021, and the finding of the Court of Appeal on 20th August 2021, the seventh judge bench, had basically locked the doors through their finding on an amendability of the Constitution. An amendability deals with the basic structure. The basic structure doctrine, when applied by both courts, had the implication of closing doors to timely constitutional amendments. Now, the basic structure was not just the only thing, because amendments to the Constitution are set out under Chapter 16 of the laws of Kenya, Chapter 16 of the Constitution, specifically Articles 255 to 257. Article 257 defining the process that must be followed by a popular initiative, and of course Article 256 is the parliamentary route, speak to, the High Court and the Court of Appeal spoke to the four-tier process. The Supreme Court has said that is unnecessary. The Supreme Court has actually saved Kenyans. And those who thought that reggae was dead are wrong. Let me put it in perspective. Reggae has simply been paused. Reggae is back to the room for preparation so that the framework commences afresh. Let me put this in perspective. There were 7 issues for determination by the court. The first issue that I've spoken about is the basic structure. The basic structure doctrine was found by the 6 judges to be inapplicable to Kenya by dint of Article 25 of the Constitution, because the basic structure is not customary law. And the basic structure, as applied to Germany or by Germany and India, has a foundation or a historic foundation that would not make it apply to Kenya. You know, Germany and Hitler used constitutional amendments to bring to fore what he needed to do to violate human rights. Now that does not apply to Kenya. And the court unanimously, except that Judge Mohamed Ibrahim dissented, found that the basic structure does not apply to Kenya. The 7 judges also removed Kenyans from the shackles of the 4-stage requirement for constitutional amendments. It means that this process will be commenced afresh with gusto. That is the first point on the basic structure. On the initiation process, of course, the court found that the president cannot initiate. These are just my preliminary findings that I think we'll discuss in detail. I'm sure my colleague will tell us. Except for Judge Njoki Ndung'u, who held that the president can initiate, that there's nothing that stops the president under Article 1. And since Chapter 16, Articles 255, 257, do not give any caveat to the president to commence the process of constitutional amendment, nothing can exclude the president from commencing that process. But the other judges found unanimously that the president cannot commence the process. Of course, the question as to whether Junaid Mohammed and and his colleague were the ones who initiated. But as long as the hand of the president was there, the majority of the judges found that he can. I remember they explained that the president's role is well set out under Articles 255 to 257. He assents to the constitutional bill.
Okay.
I'll leave it there for the time being, for the two questions.
We'll go into them one at a time.
Yes, thank you.
That
but let me just conclude.
Yeah.
And this is in line with what was said yesterday, that reggae has not stopped. These are pause.
Okay.
It is time for parliamentarians, by my learned friend Mr. Kaluma, and those who will be elected to parliament, to reinvent the wheel of constitutional reform and to ensure that this time round they get it right.
Okay.
When I look at the other findings, for instance, on the IBC and on the requirements of Article 89, and the finding by the Supreme Court that the bill, the second schedule to the bill, the one that brought constituencies, was unconstitutional, I will then tell you why it will be easier this time round to amend the Constitution and to ensure that we follow the full letter and prescription of Chapter 16 of the Constitution, so that we deliver to Kenyans what is compliant with Chapter 16.
All right. Honorable Kaluma, what was the interpretation of the ruling by the Supreme Court?
You know, as a lawyer, when David Ndii filed his petition with the question, does the basic structure doctrine apply to Kenya? As a person who chaired the committee at Kenya Law Student Society, at the law school then, which was dealing with what we called moot court competitions, I was asking, when did judges start, sitting on theories? As Professor Ojienda says, the High Court determination, confirmed by the Court of Appeal determination, had shut out all doors for the possibility of any constitutional amendment. Because it had imported this thing it called the basic structure, which you remember they interpreted and came up with what they called eternity clauses. Clauses of the Constitution, which according to both judges in the High Court and the Court of Appeal, could not be amended. It was like telling Kenyans you could make your constitution, but you cannot go back to it. And you remember, Trevor, there was a question before them. What provisions in specific terms of this constitution form that basic structure, which are eternal and cannot be amended? And a number of them, in terms of the implication of what they were saying from chapter 1 to chapter 18, they are all basic structure. It meant essentially all roads were locked. At the second level, they were saying, even if you are to imagine there are some provisions beyond the basic structure and which therefore can be amended, you had 4 steps you have to go through. And these 4 steps, I see captured here. That number 1, you have to do civic education. Then you do public participation. Then you constitute something for constitution making called a constituent assembly. And then you take it to referendum. Now, those processes for some ordinary Kenyan, like you and I, seeking to amend the constitution, in practical terms, we're saying beyond the basic structure, essentially, it is not possible for you to amend the constitution. So mine is to say the biggest win, number 1, is the finding of the Supreme Court, disagreeing with the High Court and the Court of Appeal, that foreign doctrine does not apply to our Kenyan constitutional context. And Ojienda has told you about Germany and about India. In Germany, this doctrine was put in their constitutional provisions in 1949. And you remember the year 1949 at the end of Second World War. So Germany, in their context, had a reason to say, we don't allow, casual amendments to the Constitution. And so the judges have said, no, this thing is foreign to Kenya. The provisions of Articles 257 to 255 give the roadmap for constitutional amendments either through Parliament or by the people. The court has also clarified, and this to me is important, because Trevor, Kenyans are forgetting, this is the first attempt at amending the constitution by popular initiative to have gone that far. We had the Okoa by CORD. We had the Punguza Mzigo by Ekuru and his team, Third Way Alliance.
Yeah.
They all collapsed. So for the first time, we had an attempt at constitutional amendment by popular initiative go through the National Assembly and the Senate and all the county assemblies, successfully. So it had gone that far. But it was not yet clear how you go around it. And you remember the judges were saying that to date, we don't have even a law on referendum.
Yeah.
Now, it is already clarified that, number one, when you are dealing with it, let not the president officially involve. And you saw most of the judges by majority were saying, in as much as you can say he did not involve, the fact of gazettement of the secretariat members and other things, revealed his hands in the process.
Yeah.
Now, what we now need to do is that it is now open. Any provision of the Constitution, even beyond those ones BBI was dealing with, are now confirmed are amendable, can be amended. Number two, you simply need to disengage the president, more so officially. Get people you want to initiate the process and let them sign the papers, and you move on. So those steps don't apply. In my view, the path has been cleared, in a very wide way.
Yeah.
And if we were to put politics out of it, it is a very good thing you'd see. I know we would be discussing the other issues, but I'm happy that doctrine has been found inapplicable. I was personally very worried about it. And the consequence of it is that petition which was filed by David D has been dismissed, though it was upheld by both the High Court and the Court of Appeal. So D has completely lost. But largely when you put politics aside, and as lawyers we look at the meaning of this decision, it is the clearest path. And you also note, the Supreme Court is not saying any amendments that were being proposed were bad on the substance, except that second schedule by which constituencies were being created, where the court said that is the role of IEBC. And by the way, as lawyers, there is an extent to which you may agree or not. But in substance, they are saying all these things are good, and there were very good provisions. The challenge was on the process, more so the involvement of the president. So you can now proceed without officially involving the president. And remember, the courts have also said the president, as any other person, has rights under Article 38 to then campaign without initiating or promoting. So just disengage the official engagement, and the president will proceed with the Kenyans in terms of effecting the amendments on any issue in any manner. It's a beautiful decision.
Prof, is that your reading as well? Because that issue you're talking about, which is number 6, where the president cannot initiate constitutional changes through popular initiative, hence BBI bill is unconstitutional. Are you saying then that, based on your interpretation, that this document can be brought back as is without the president being the one pushing it, except removing the part for the IBC?
In fact, it's very easy. Let me say this, Trevor, that indeed the finding of the court on the basic structure sanctifies this process ex parte the president. Simply remove the president from the equation, get other individuals to properly bring the bill for consideration, and then follow the steps. The steps are, as long as you then have those signatures. And then, of course, the court then found very beautifully that there was public participation. That means that the bill as presented and as processed was in conformity with the Constitution, save for the second schedule. The second schedule, and incidentally, when I was here yesterday, I told you, and I remember, and don't say that I'm a magician, that the basic structure would be unsettled. I also told you that the quorum issue of the IBC would be confirmed, and it was indeed confirmed in line with the Biwott case, which I told you again, that I argued at the High Court and won. So, I mean, it's interesting. When I read the judgment, I just said, oh, this is good, because in part, I had predicted 3 things. I also said that it would be difficult to unsettle the role of IBC under Article 89(2), 3, 4, 5 on how to delineate boundaries.
Yeah.
Indeed, that is what the court applied. The court said that you must follow that step. And therefore, the process was seeking to amend the Constitution without due process. It was therefore unconstitutional. That's the second step. Then it was also not subjected to public participation. You remember those 70 constituencies were just brought up. They were brought up without a process. And I think that is what unsettled the entire, that is what made the court arrive at that finding.
Yeah.
But this bill can be brought back.
As is, except
yes,
for the
as
second
is.
schedule.
They will leave out the parts
Yeah.
that would require a constitutional intervention. Article 89, leave the part on those the boundaries and leave it, then that can follow the process. Consider all the other parts, bring back the bill.
Yeah.
Because IBC, in fact, now it is properly, even more properly constituted, but the court found that under Article 250, Sub-Article 1 of the Constitution, the IBC can operate as long as they have 3 commissioners. The advantage of that is that this cushions the commission from all acts that it did when there were only 3 commissioners. Remember, Chebukati has been a commissioner, was a commissioner with only 2 other commissioners, Professor Gulie and the 3rd commissioner, for almost a year or more before we had the other commissioners appointed.
Yeah.
So I think this judgment, as I said, this judgment is, in my view, is a breath of fresh air in constitutional jurisprudence. Remember, the Hitleric influence on the basic structure. You remember this was, as I said, 1949 that it refers to. Hitler used the Constitution to sanitize his acts.
Yeah.
And that is why Germany had a basis to cushion and to protect their Constitution through the basic structure doctrine that then brought the concept of unamenability.
Yeah.
And I think that does not apply to this country. And the court has really done a good job for this country. But this country can then move forward on a clean slate. We do not need to be told by any person that we cannot amend our Constitution. We can define our destiny because constitutions are about the morals and the ethos of a community. They're about reflections of what we need, and that will change. They're not immutable. And I'm happy with this. The Supreme Court did a good job for this country.
Okay. Honorable Kalumu, on this issue of the president's involvement, for argument's sake, because the Supreme Court has already made its ruling on this, where do you draw the line between presidential power and the people's delegated power? Because when the Supreme Court decides that the president cannot initiate a popular initiative, what if it was the people who asked him to do it? Because essentially he's exercising the people's power delegated to him.
You see, on that I agree with the position taken by Judge Ndungu.
Yeah.
Judge Ndungu went to the provisions of the Constitution dealing with the roles of a president.
Yeah.
Look, the president is a symbol of national unity. And I saw Judge Ndungu asking, if as a symbol of national unity, you see what is causing the nation to be divided.
Yeah.
The solution to them could be in policy changes. The solution to them could be in changes to these acts of parliament by parliament. The solution could be constitutional amendments. If you as a president, you realize what is causing Kenyans to be divided is indeed in the Constitution. What do you do about it? Do you tie his hand and you say he cannot tell Kenyans this is where our problem as a nation is? And that is what the judge was saying. That would be like giving the president power, but without authority. Judge Ndungu said that would be, untenable, absurdity. I agree with that. You remember Judge Lenaola also said the president cannot, but the president did not initiate the amendment. So those two are of, those divergent view out of their perspective. It confirms that indeed President Kenyatta, committed no wrong. Even at the level of the Supreme Court, there are still people who are agreeing with him that he should have authority in the discharge of his roles as president to do what he did. And of course, the majority, disagreeing. You cannot say Uhuru did a wrong. The fact of the matter is that whatever perspectives we have, the Supreme Court is our last court in the land, and we now have to, live with this decision until it is reviewed, possibly in the future, at that limb by, another court. Another thing that is related to that, Trevor, which I think the Supreme Court did, and I think, Professor Ojienda captures it, is that if you look at the tone of the judgment in the High Court, Trevor, you remember, they were so personalized. The court was so personalized in their references to the president. Remember references to Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta. Mr. Kenyatta can be, charged and found liable before the civil, before the criminal courts. You see that is lost in the apex court. The Supreme Court is now saying President Kenyatta could do this and that. And there is a finding which we are forgetting, but also shocked me. Ask anybody, even a first year at the law school. They will tell you a president, while in office, cannot be subjected to legal processes, more so civil actions. Okay? For good reasons. If you exposed the president to, suits in civil courts, you remember, like in the last elections, the nation was divided. It means you're allowing Trevor, Kaloma, Professor Ojienda, everybody to sue the president. Will that president discharge those other functions? You will have a president who is permanently before a court of law, defending one action after the other, mostly frivolous. So there is a reason as to why the Constitution expressly said, while in office, discharging his functions qua president, qua to mean as president, you cannot subject the president, and he has that immunity. And then you remember the High Court said, no, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta can be subjected to civil processes. And by the way, if you remember, the High Court and the Court of Appeal were saying, indeed, he was culpable for some things for which he should be, held, to account. Now the courts, and I think looking at it, virtually all judges said no. While he's in office, in line with the literal letter of the Constitution, every action against him will remain suspended. Of course, when he leaves office, you can sue him. But for the dignity of the time he's sitting as president of Kenya, so that he may be able to discharge his other roles, he will enjoy what the Supreme Court called absolute immunity from civil processes. And that, to me, was another beautiful thing I saw come from the Supreme Court.
All right. I'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we're still continuing with the 7 issues. We've spoken about the basic structure doctrine. We also talked about president cannot initiate constitutional changes through popular initiative. Hence, the BBI bill was found to be null and void. We're going into the issue of the president enjoying immunity. That coming up in just a bit. Keep your views coming at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag DayBreak. See you shortly.